hush of a moonlit night, I found myself within the confines of an ambulance, its cold interior a stark contrast to the turmoil churning within me. The city's distant lights glowed like a sea of stars, casting an eerie glow that seemed to intensify the palpable tension in the air. I had answered countless calls as a paramedic, braving the chaos and the pain that life could throw our way, but nothing could have prepared me for the harrowing journey that lay ahead. It had started like any other shift, routine calls and the occasional emergency interspersed with moments of camaraderie and black humor that were essential coping mechanisms in our line of work. But on that fateful night, the radio's crackling voice delivered a message that sent a shiver down my spine. An address in a suburban neighborhood was all it took for a growing sense of unease to grip my heart. The dispatcher's voice was composed, but the details she relayed struck a chord of dread within me. A murder scene, brutal and horrifying, awaiting our arrival. My partner, James, and I exchanged a glance, the unspoken understanding between us tinged with a mixture of dread and resolve. As the ambulance sped through the city streets, the wailing sirens and flashing lights seemed to punctuate the impending darkness that awaited us. We pulled up to the scene, the facade of a quiet suburban neighborhood now a mere illusion shattered by the weight of the crime that had unfolded within its walls. A sense of malevolence hung over the air, a shadow that seemed to seep from the very pavement beneath our feet. The flashing lights of police cruisers illuminated the night, casting an otherworldly hue over the scene that awaited us. Exiting the ambulance, my pulse quickened, and the chill in the air seemed to tighten around me like an invisible vice. The door to the house stood before us, an entryway into a world of horror that defied comprehension. With each step, my heart pounded in rhythm with the flashing lights, an eerie syncopation that mirrored the dissonance in my mind. We entered the house, our footsteps muffled by the weight of what lay ahead. The scene that greeted us was a tableau of terror, an image that would be forever etched into my memory. The room was awash in a symphony of crimson hues, the walls and floor marred by splatters of blood that created a macabre mosaic of violence. The scent of death hung heavy in the air, an acrid mixture of iron and decay that clawed at my senses. Amidst the chaos, amidst the crimson tapestry of violence, lay a figure that would forever haunt my dreams. She was young, far too young to have been met with such a gruesome fate. Her lifeless eyes stared into the abyss, their vacant gaze a chilling reminder of the life that had been extinguished so brutally. In that moment, the weight of the world seemed to settle on my shoulders, the stark reality of the scene before me crashing down like a tidal wave. My gloved hands trembled as I approached, the gravity of the situation settling like a stone in my stomach. As a paramedic, I had seen the aftermath of accidents, the fallout of disease. But this was something altogether different, a sinister act that defied reason and humanity. With a heavy heart, I knelt beside her, the weight of her tragedy washing over me in waves. Time seemed to lose its grip as we worked alongside the police, our focus on the delicate balance between preserving evidence and providing a modicum of dignity to the young victim. The night wore on, our movements mechanical as we processed the scene, as we bore witness to the horrors of a world that can be both beautiful and unbearably cruel. Back at the station, the ghostly images of the scene continued to flicker before my eyes, a haunting slideshow that played out against the backdrop of my own thoughts. The days that followed were a haze of therapy sessions and sleepless nights, as the weight of the darkness we had encountered burrowed deep within my psyche. The nightmares came, vivid and visceral, replaying the horrors I had witnessed on that fateful night. The young woman's vacant eyes seemed to follow me even in my waking hours, a silent reminder of the fragility of life and the depths of human cruelty. The road to recovery was a long and arduous one, a journey through the darkest corners of my own mind as I sought to make sense of the senseless. As time marched on, the wounds began to heal, the nightmares becoming less frequent, though their impact remained. The darkness I had witnessed that night had left an indelible mark on my soul, a reminder that those who serve on the front lines bear witness to the darkest facets of humanity. It was a reminder that our hearts often bear the weight of tragedy long after the scene has been cleared and the sirens have faded. The wilderness has always held its secrets close, hidden among the rustling leaves and echoing calls of distant creatures. As a seasoned search and rescue officer, I had spent years navigating the dense forests and rugged terrain, searching for lost souls who had ventured too far from the safety of the well-worn trails. But it was the case of a small boy who vanished in the heart of those whispering woods that would forever haunt my dreams. It was a day like any other when the call came in. A young boy, no older than 5, had wandered off the path during a family hike. The parents' frantic shouts and the shrill cries of the boy's sister echoed through the trees as they desperately searched for any sign of him. By the time we arrived on the scene, the sun was dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch their eerie fingers across the forest floor. As we gathered our gear and set out on the search, the forest enveloped us in an almost suffocating silence. The trees loomed like ancient sentinels, their branches reaching skyward as if to guard their secrets from prying eyes. My fellow search and rescue officers fanned out, each of us armed with the hope of reuniting a family torn apart by fear. I approached the parents, their faces etched with a mix of desperation and dread. They told me that their son had been walking just a few paces ahead of them, his innocent curiosity leading him astray as they rounded a bend. And then in the blink of an eye he was gone, swallowed by the forest's embrace. As I knelt beside the little girl, her eyes glistening with tears, she clung to a stuffed animal, its fabric worn from years of love. Her voice trembled as she spoke, her words barely forming sentences, but there was an urgency in her gaze that told me she held a clue to her brother's disappearance. "Pat that way," she whispered, her small finger pointing deeper into the woods. It was a cryptic lead, but it was all we had. I radioed my team, relaying the information, and we set off in the direction the little girl had indicated. The forest seemed to close in around us, the dense undergrowth and twisted branches creating an otherworldly labyrinth that defied all sense of direction. We pushed forward, hacking through the vegetation as the moon cast a silvery glow over the landscape. Hours turned into an eternity as we pressed on, our search intensifying with each passing moment. The forest seemed to conspire against us, every rustle of leaves and distant hoot of an owl playing tricks on our minds. But we continued, driven by the belief that we could bring a lost child back to safety, that we could reunite a family torn apart by the wilderness's cruel embrace. As the night wore on, our flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing glimpses of the boy's small footprints in the mud. Each step seemed to lead us deeper into the heart of the forest, our determination unwavering even as doubt began to creep into our minds. And then we stumbled upon something that froze us in our tracks, a clearing, bathed in moonlight, where the shadows seemed to gather like specters. In the center of the clearing stood a gnarled tree, its twisted branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. And there, hanging from a low branch, was a torn piece of fabric, the boy's shirt. It was a chilling sight, a stark reminder that the forest could be a merciless adversary, its secrets hidden among the trees waiting to be unearthed. The discovery of the torn shirt hung heavy in the air, casting a shadow over our search efforts. The moonlight seemed to wane, leaving the clearing shrouded in an oppressive darkness that echoed the weight of our hearts. The forest had taken on an eerie stillness, the usual sounds of nature silenced as if in mourning. We continued to comb the area, our flashlights casting long beams of light that danced among the trees. The forest floor yielded no further clues, and with each passing moment our hope began to wane. The forest had swallowed the boy whole, leaving us with nothing but a cryptic message and a sense of impending doom. As the night stretched on, exhaustion began to creep in both physically and emotionally. We formed a tight circle, our faces illuminated by the feeble glow of our flashlights as we discussed our options. The little girl's whispered words echoed in my mind, "Pat that way." It was as if her innocence had somehow tapped into the pulse of the forest, connecting her to a realm beyond our understanding. We decided to split into two teams, each following the path we believed the boy might have taken based on the evidence we had. I led one group while my colleague Mark took the other. The forest seemed to grow even darker as we ventured deeper, the trees closing in around us like a suffocating embrace. Hours turned into a blur, the passage of time distorted by the enveloping darkness. Our calls for the boy went unanswered, the only response the haunting echoes that seemed to whisper his name among the trees. My heart ached with each step, my mind tortured by the thought of a child lost and alone in the unforgiving wilderness. And then, as if guided by some unseen force, we stumbled upon a dilapidated cabin nestled among the trees. Its windows were shattered, its door hanging on a single hinge, a testament to the passage of time and neglect. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, and a sense of foreboding settled in the pit of my stomach. As we cautiously entered the cabin, our flashlights revealed a scene of desolation. The interior was littered with debris, broken furniture, tattered clothing, and the remnants of a life that had long since unraveled. It was as if the very walls were infused with a malevolent energy, an aura of darkness that clung to every corner. In a corner of the room, I spotted something that sent a chill through my veins. A child's drawing, its once bright colors now faded and smeared with dirt. The crude depiction of a family holding hands seemed to mock the reality of the cabin's emptiness, a stark reminder that the forest had claimed its inhabitants. I radioed Mark, informing him of our discovery, and we continued to search the cabin in the hope of finding some trace of the boy. It was then that my flashlight illuminated a trapdoor hidden beneath a rug. The air grew even colder as I lifted the door, revealing a staircase that descended into darkness. The shadows seemed to writhe around the opening, as if warning us to turn back. We descended into the abyss, our flashlights casting feeble beams that danced along the stone walls. The air was damp and oppressive, and a sense of unease settled over us as we ventured deeper into the subterranean depths. The passage seemed to stretch on endlessly, the darkness punctuated only by the occasional glimmer of moisture on the walls. And then we stumbled upon a chamber, its walls adorned with strange symbols and crude drawings that seemed to depict scenes of suffering and despair. The air grew thick with an otherworldly energy, and a sense of dread settled over me like a suffocating shroud. It was as if we had stepped into a realm untouched by time, a place where the boundaries between reality and nightmare had blurred. And there, in the center of the chamber, lay the boy. His small form was huddled on the ground, his eyes vacant and unseeing. As we approached, a chill swept through the air, and a sense of malevolence seemed to radiate from the very walls themselves. The boy's lips moved, his voice a hoarse whisper that sent shivers down my spine. "He's coming," he murmured, his gaze fixed on a shadowy figure that materialized from the darkness. It was a visage of terror, a manifestation of the forest's darkest secrets. The figure seemed to shift and twist, its form a grotesque amalgamation of limbs and shadows that defied all reason. Our flashlights flickered, their feeble beams struggling against the oppressive darkness. Panic clawed at my chest as the figure drew closer, its presence a tangible force that seemed to drain the very life from the air. We retreated, our steps echoing through the chamber as the shadows closed in around us. And then, as if guided by some unseen force, the boy's sister appeared in the entrance of the chamber. Her eyes held a glimmer of clarity, her small hand reaching out toward us. With a strength born of desperation, we pulled her to safety, her presence seeming to dispel the malevolent energy that had gripped the chamber. As we retreated from the subterranean depths, the forest seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, the darkness receding like a tide pulled back by the moon. The boy's parents held him tightly, their tears mingling with a mix of gratitude and sorrow. The forest had relinquished its grip on him, but the scars left by the ordeal would forever shape his perception of the world. The forest had given up its secrets, the shadows of the subterranean chamber relinquishing their grip on the boy and his sister. As we emerged from the darkness, the moonlight seemed to cast a soothing glow over the wilderness, as if nature itself was offering a moment of respite from the horrors we had faced. The boy was reunited with his parents, their tearful embraces, a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the strength of familial bonds. As I looked upon the family, I couldn't help but feel a sense of bittersweet relief. The boy was safe, but the scars of the ordeal were etched deep within him, a reminder of the darkness that could lurk beneath the surface of the world. In the days that followed, our team compiled our findings and reported the details of our discovery to the authorities. The cabin and its chamber had held secrets that defied explanation, leaving us with more questions than answers. The symbols and drawings etched into the walls remained a mystery, their meaning lost to time in the veil between our world and the realm we had stumbled upon. The boy's family found solace in their reunion, but the forest's ominous presence continued to cast a shadow over their lives. The boy's sister, despite her young age, seemed to be haunted by a knowledge beyond her years, her eyes holding a distant awareness of the darkness that had threatened to claim her brother. As for us, the search and rescue team, the case left an indelible mark on our hearts and minds. The whispers of the forest, the subterranean chamber, and the enigmatic figure that had manifested from the darkness. They were all etched into our memories, a haunting reminder of the mysteries that lie hidden within the world around us. The forest had given up its secrets, but it had also left us with a profound sense of awe and humility. The wilderness held a power beyond our comprehension, a realm where the boundaries of reality and the unknown could blur. And as we ventured back into the heart of those whispering woods, we couldn't help but feel that the echoes of that night would forever resonate within us. A reminder that there are some mysteries that are better left untouched. The tale of the boy in the chamber became part of our lore, a story shared among our team members. as a reminder of the challenges we faced and the resilience we possessed. As for the boy and his family, they eventually moved away, seeking to distance themselves from the forest that had forever altered their lives. And so, my friends, as you go about your days, remember that the world is a place of wonder and darkness, beauty and terror. The story of the boy and the whispering woods serves as a testament to the limits of human understanding, a reminder that even in the safety of the familiar, there are realms beyond our grasp. As a search and rescue officer, I have encountered the edges of the unknown, glimpsing the enigmas that exist just beyond our reach. The forest's secrets remain hidden, its depths holding stories untold. And while we may never fully comprehend the mysteries that lie within, we can only hope that our respect for the wilderness and our compassion for one another will guide us through the darkness and back into the light. In the depths of the urban sprawl, where the city's heartbeat echoed through the alleys and streets, a tale of terror unfolded that would forever haunt the officers who walked its dark paths. As a police officer, I had patrolled these streets for years, navigating the intricate dance of crime and justice. But one night, the line between the two would blur in a chilling encounter that left scars on my soul. The call came in shortly after midnight. A man armed with a machete, his mind twisted by a blend of anger and madness. My partner, Detective Rodriguez, and I raced to the scene, the wailing sirens a symphony of urgency as they cut through the night's stillness. The address was nestled within a decaying part of the city, its buildings standing like forgotten sentinels, their windows dark and lifeless. As we arrived, the tension in the air was palpable, a storm of anticipation and dread that seemed to settle over the scene like a shroud. The moon cast a faint glow over the alleyway, revealing the huddled figures of our fellow officers, their weapons drawn and their faces etched with determination. Our radios crackled with updates as we assessed the situation. A man had barricaded himself within a dilapidated building, his movements erratic and his threats escalating. Our priority was to defuse the situation and protect the lives of both the officers and any innocent bystanders who might find themselves caught in the crossfire. My partner and I exchanged a nod, our unspoken understanding a testament to the bond forged by years of shared experiences. As we approached the building, the shadows seemed to stretch and twist, their darkness a silent reminder of the dangers that lurked within. We took our positions, our weapons at the ready as we prepared to confront the unknown. A voice crackled over the loudspeaker, offering a chance for the man to surrender peacefully. But the response was a guttural scream, the words a garbled mix of rage and madness that sent shivers down my spine. It was clear that reason had fled from his mind, leaving only a storm of chaos in its wake. As I peered into the darkness, my heart pounded in my chest, the weight of the situation settling upon me like a suffocating weight. The alleyway was silent, the tension so thick that I could almost taste it on the air. And then, as if emerging from the very shadows themselves, the man appeared. His eyes burned with a manic fire, his grip on the machete white-knuckled and unyielding. The moonlight glinted off the blade, casting an eerie gleam that seemed to dance with the rhythm of his twisted thoughts. Detective Rodriguez and I locked eyes, the unspoken agreement passing between us like a current of electricity. "Drop the weapon," I shouted, my voice ringing out through the darkness. But the man's response was a frenzied laugh. His gaze locked onto us with a mixture of defiance and madness. It was as if he had become untethered from reality, his mind consumed by a storm that refused to abate. Time seemed to slow as the man advanced, his movements both deliberate and erratic. The alleyway was a crucible of tension, the air thick with the knowledge that any misstep could lead to tragedy. My fingers tightened around my weapon, my heart racing as I tried to anticipate his next move. And then, in an instant, he lunged, the machete slicing through the air with a chilling hiss. Instinct took over as I fired, the shots echoing through the alleyway like a symphony of desperation. The man's body jerked with each impact, his form collapsing to the ground as if puppet strings had been cut. Silence descended upon the alleyway, broken only by the faint echoes of gunshots and the whisper of the wind. Detective Rodriguez and I approached cautiously, our weapons still trained on the fallen man. But as we drew closer, the reality of the situation settled upon us like a heavy fog. The man's eyes were empty, his breath shallow and labored as life ebbed from his body. The machete lay beside him, its blade stained with a darkness that seemed to seep into the very pavement. And as I looked upon his lifeless form, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of sorrow and pity. A reminder that beneath the chaos and madness, there was a person who had once walked this same world. The scene would forever haunt my dreams, the echoes of that night a constant presence in the corners of my mind. As a police officer, I had faced danger and darkness, but the encounter with the armed man and his twisted descent into madness left an indelible mark on my soul. The night served as a stark reminder that the shadows within us can sometimes be more terrifying than the darkness that surrounds us. It was a reminder that beneath the surface of even the most ordinary lives, there can be a storm of pain and chaos that threatens to consume everything in its path. Hello everyone, thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you did enjoy it, I would appreciate if you would like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would help out a heap. Remember to look out for one another and stay safe. It is a strange world we live in after all.